right. Hi, everybody. David Fogel back with you, CEO of the Symphonina Foundation, back with another Symphonina Foundation podcast. I'm joined today by Mary Beth Orr, French hornist, vocalist, and also pet lover. You may hear a little meow in the back, which is one of her cats, I believe. We'll have to learn about her cat as we go on here. There may be more. I know she's big into rescue pets and all that. We'll find out. Mary, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, David?
Well, we're doing good. It's November. It's almost the end of the year. We're already looking for what's going to happen in 2026, but we do have the Grammy nomination announcements, and we're excited for everybody whose music we got to listen to, and hopefully they listen to ours as well. And we'll find out about that on November 7th, and then move on from there. We've got the Symphonina competition now open for entries to Best Symphonina of the Year. And that closes on December 10 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. And then we'll find out who the best and second best and maybe third best Symphonina composers are and what their compositions are, and get ready for recording them for next year's album. So there's no rest for the weary over here. But I would want to ask you, you've had a great career already, both in folk vocals and French horning. And how did all that come to be?
It's kind of really long, and that I'll kind of shorten it a bit for you. I mean, because it's pretty, I would say that my personality is, a type A Virgo. There's this part of me that really wants to have the straight road with everything, to kind of follow the exact plan of this comes first and then this and this. And then I have this other part of me that, just kind of wants to climb things and jump off of high places and stuff. So in general, my musical career didn't take any of the normal steps that I thought it was going to take. None of my life has really operated that way. So now I've just learned to embrace the adventure, so to speak. So I have a very twisty, turvy, it just very much no Google Maps to help guide me through this element of it. But, the long and short of it is that, I did the path that a lot of other classical instrumentalists do as a horn player. I actually started college as a double major in performance on piano and horn.
Okay.
Anybody that's done a piano major knows exactly what I mean when I say that full piano recital at the end just completely held me back. It was too much. I got an ulcer. And so I had to kind of drop it by my senior year. Mm-hmm. Also realizing that I wasn't going to be piano is a voice of mine, but I was not going to be the concert pianist I dreamed of, when I was 7.
Okay.
But during that time in school, as an instrumentalist, it's okay. You win an orchestra job. You go to graduate school, you practice and just take auditions. That's all you do. You take auditions. And I did a week of graduate school at Carnegie Mellon, and was really, my body was shutting down. It's like, this is not what I'm meant to. I'm not wanting to take any more classes anymore. I was really burnt out. I just wanted to perform. But I had never really made that synthesis while I was in school of who I wanted to be as an artist. It was always about check off these boxes so that you please the panel behind the screen. And my education, as amazing as it was, I loved my undergraduate education at Shenandoah, but I felt the entire time like I had to choose one thing, and I had to specialize only on that one thing. And every other voice I had to be channeled just that one thing. I didn't really feel like I knew how to transition from a student to a professional artist. I was still trying to please this phantom, voice, this phantom panel of, that every orchestra panel you're going to see. And I was successful as a freelancer, but I was not getting past those prelim rounds and auditions. And through that process, I started to, in a lot of my work with music theater, actually as a pianist, because I was doing vocal coaching and a lot of music theater accompanying and classical voice accompanying at Central Michigan University when I moved up here to Michigan. Mm-hmm. And I was so inspired by what the music theater department was doing with these senior music theater students and the workshopping they were doing, and this talk about art and truth and authenticity and storytelling. And I'm like, I'm going to play fourth horn on Dvorak 9 for the 10th time this season. It's like, I was just feeling this kind of, this twitchiness, this kind of restlessness that maybe this thing that I thought I needed to validate my existence as a musician by winning a full-time orchestra job is maybe not 100% the way to go. And so I started to broaden my perspective that maybe what I needed to be thinking about is what I truly wanted. Is it, getting a salary in a full-time orchestra, or is it playing really amazing music and creating amazing music with the best musicians that exist? Is that my level of validation and success, is just really creating great art and music with really great musicians?
Yeah.
And then that led me to compete in solo competitions. And from there, that opened up this whole other, I started realizing, no, I need to play this way. But before, it's how do they want to hear it? How do they want to hear this thing?
Mm-hmm.
So through doing solo work, I started to kind of get very much more confident and comfortable in what I wanted to say, as a musician, how I wanted this phrase or that phrase to go. So fast forward to, this was, 2015, and I ended up after working with Corbin Wagner at MSU for a little bit, who I'd played with him in Detroit Symphony for a while. I'd gone to him for some lessons, and I realized I needed to make a shift. So I was going to do a master's, apply for the University Distinguished Fellowship, which is a very specific thing for professional people at MSU. So I, was going to audition there, was working with him. Then I auditioned in Grand Rapids, and I auditioned with Chicago Lyric. And I got the fellowship and won Grand Rapids at the same time.
Great.
Yeah. And I turned it down, the fellowship.
And you went to Grand Rapids.
Realized, and then and I went to Grand Rapids, but during the fall part, part of that season, anybody that's been in what we call the Freeway Philharmonic as a freelancer, I was working 18-hour days, 9 months out of the year. Just the hustle was real.
Yeah.
So my husband said I just wandered around the house looking for something to clean, because I only had one job to focus on. And really I'd been juggling probably about 10 other jobs. And so I contacted Corbin, and he was able to get the fellowship reinstated. And I was able to get the master's and get tenure with Grand Rapids at the same time.
There you go.
And during that master's degree, I just played. Not in the musical term of playing, but in the artistic term of playing. I did every independent study I could, just playing around with who am I? Who am I as an artist? What is it that I can actually contribute to the artistic world? And so that led to me kind of really going deep within myself and saying, okay, what are all the things that made me? How do I share those? And my husband was the one that said, you need to be singing. He said, if you're really going to go super vulnerable like an artist would, you have to actually sing. Because I just shut the singing like way back, in a closet. Because it's like, I think I reached a limit where I only had enough tolerance for a certain amount of criticism, right, to open myself up for.
Okay.
And so between piano and horn, I was like, I think I'm kind of maxed out. So I really didn't sing for a long time. And when I realized, okay, so I kind of sat down and made a list. What are the things that make my heart pound a little bit faster the most? What are the things that make me cry? What are the things that, what do I have to keep playing repeat on? When I look back at my life, what would I want the soundtrack of that to look like? And so that's how this idea of synthesizing the folk music of my family and my heritage with the classical music that made me want to make it a career. And that's where it came into play. Then everything else just kind of came together organically. And I wouldn't say it was an intellectual choice, but a very strong, visceral soul choice to do things the way I did them. I wouldn't say there's a lot of, the album is definitely curated in that I've created a space with a story to it. And I've tried to create a full world that you can immerse yourself in for the hour and 12 minutes that you're listening. But in terms of finding myself as an artist, it was really just 100% an intuitive process, and not cultivated with anything else, but just this feels good or this doesn't.
So you have two worlds, basically, then: the soloist world, where you get to do what you want to do, and the Grand Rapids Symphony, where you're part of the symphony and you're part of the team, and it's the way the conductor, presumably, is wanting everything. I'm not going to ask you to pick one that's a favorite of the other. I would hope you would pick the soloist. But are you at the point now where you appreciate the positives of both of those things and can set aside the negatives of both of those things and enjoy each of them for what they are.
I don't think you could say it any better than that. That really, it's really true. I can absolutely do that. I can appreciate what I need from both, because it really is. I think I know 100% I would miss one or the other. If I didn't do both, I would not be complete, because playing in the orchestra, that's a very different type of challenge. Like, we just did Lord of the Rings last week, and I swear I think doing Mahler 3 is easier. 3.5 hours on stage, and I was playing principal for that.
Yeah.
So I'm juggling solos within lots of other big things, and it's just a lot to sustain your mind and your body for that amount of time. And you're like a sharpshooter. Anybody that's played horn in an orchestra, especially on higher parts like third and fourth and principal, because I'm third in Grand Rapids, man, you're like a sniper. You're sitting there, and you might be sitting for a long time, and it's just like, bam, you just got to nail that thing. So there's a certain athleticism to it, and the team sport type of element that I can understand why people are really into sports, because we do that as an ensemble on stage. So it's like jamming with my band on one hand, and also this really cool ultimate test of, can you nail it? Are you the clutch player? Right. But then the solo thing is, man, I get to connect so personally with it feels like I can connect with every single person in that audience, that energy. And then what I'm sharing of myself is, there's just a profound freedom in that I could never, I don't think I could live without that now that I've experienced it. And it's something like, it's honoring this very deep part of me that, and actually not honoring just me, but honoring the art that came before me at the same time. I know that sounds maybe a little hippy dippy or kind of maybe too, I don't know. I'm a very grounded person, so it's kind of hard to talk in those terms, but there does seem to be a certain magic that threads what I try to do as a soloist that connects deep within people. And so I do feel connected to maybe the musicians in my family that I didn't even know that came before me, by honoring these, honoring that truth that's within me.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's interesting. You were a featured performer for Vox Novus's 15 Minutes of Fame. Tell us a little bit about that and what you have planned as an additional version of that, I guess, that might be coming up.
Yes. So back during COVID, I'd be sipping on a glass or two of wine at 2 a.m. like many other people were, and, kind of itching to do something. And so I entered a lot of online competitions, to keep myself motivated and in shape.
Yeah.
And the Sound Espressivo competition came up. And I think what I really liked about this is that there were real, tangible, it wasn't just, we're going to give you a certificate. And there are a lot of competitions out there I would call validation station competitions. Okay. But Sound Espressivo wasn't one of those. There were real prizes that involved, artist development. And Vox Novus was one of the prizes, the 15 Minutes of Fame project that were offered. And so Robert Voisey was actually a judge for the first round of that competition. I can't remember if he was on the second round or if he just ended up watching the finals where you do perform. It's not, you just don't send in recording, you're performing live, online. There's a legitimacy to that. Okay,
you got one take.
Yeah, it's like you got to get on there, you got to see what you can actually do.
Right.
And he loved what I was doing, because I did the first track that's on the album. I did Appalachia followed with Wayfaring Stranger, connected into each other.
Yeah.
He was like, that's so cool. And I ended up getting, that was one of the prizes that I got, was getting to be a featured call for him. Because I was like, oh my God, this opportunity to get works from new living composers for me. Yes, 100%. So when we did that call, it was really just, the call was about, sending in very programmatic storytelling pieces that involved folk singing and horn playing. And that was really the only, and you gave them links to, my website, what I do, so that they, people could kind of have an idea. And I ended up getting close to 100 submissions from that, and it was an amazing process. I would tell you, it was really hard going from, I was able to narrow things down to about 40, and I loved all 40, but I had to get it down to 15. It was crazy. And then got to go.
Each one's 1 minute. That's the 15 minutes of fame. So
yeah,
1 minute, 15 things. Yeah. Okay.
Like a minute of your best work. And what's great is that I realized as I got down to these 15, some of the key signatures were the same. There were ideas that seemed to flow into this other work that someone from across the world had written.
Okay.
And so even how I grouped them in on the album was so that they flowed together as if they were creating a whole new piece.
Yeah.
And I just, that idea of connection just was amazing to me, that these people that, like, one of the selections I chose was from a 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, she just wrote the most amazing melody. I couldn't get enough of it.
Did you get to meet her?
Yes. In fact, I think I was maybe one of the first artists to do this, but I asked Robert, can we do a few different, just in order to be able to get everybody, like, offer a few different dates to get together as many composers as possible with me on Zoom, so the composers can meet each other and I could meet them, and I could really, because it's not monetary at all in this. I volunteer my services to perform their work. Robert gets donations to be able to record it. We do a soundstage recording with Manhattan Public Radio. I use my own funds to fly and to travel to New York to do the recording. And then, I funded with a crowd fund and everything else, the album and the contract and everything to do that. So, the composers can get publishing. I mean, they have their publishing rights to that, to anything that they write. So they still own what they write. But in terms of getting paid for the commission, that's not there, but I don't get paid for the performance either. So what I wanted was, okay, I want you to know how much I appreciate you and you taking your time to submit this work and to connect with me on this level. And I want you to network and meet other composers that are on this project with you. And I also want to pick your brain about, how you wrote what you wrote, why you wrote what you wrote. And, a couple of the tunes, Dunhuang Neighborhood, actually, I spoke with her about, how to kind of, we experimented together about how to get the right sounds of what she was hearing in this neighborhood she grew up in. And Michael Lau, who did, Maltia. It's based off of folk songs in Malta. So he ended up sending me recordings of folks, singers, Maltan singers, singing this stuff. So it's like, I really wanted to immerse myself in what these composers were sending. And I don't think there are a lot of other experiences out there that provide that. And
so there's a new call out for compositions then for a 2026 version of that, right?
Yes, the call closed over this summer, and I am now that Grammy stuff has calmed down, I am getting to the place where I can, because I've already done a listen to all of them, but I felt like I take the process so sacred. It's a very sacred thing for me, and I really take it so seriously and try to do it really carefully. So I spend a lot of time listening over and over again, and making sure that there's a deep connection to each of the selections that I'm choosing. This one is about heroines, like the female hero. And, I have so many in my life, and I really like to be, if I'm going to be truly authentic, the female voice is a very authentic voice for me. So I want to very much stay in that lane, because I think I can tell that story from a really honest place, without any appropriation at all, which I try to be very cognizant of. But I really was interested in what the living composers, these young, actually there's completely diverse voices, as diverse as possible. What does that mean to someone? What is this idea of a female hero mean to you? Is it your mother? Is it someone you know? Is it a historical figure? Do you think of a mythological figure that may not even be
maybe
real?
It's the French horn player. You never know.
Maybe it's the French horn player.
Yeah.
And we're going to stay with, you know, what my brand is, which is connecting the human voice with the brass voice, you know, the horn, and
Yep.
blending, fusing styles, classical horn with folk voice. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm waiting for a message back from Rob when we're going to kind of have the announcement date set, but it is definitely going to be soon, before the new year for sure.
I do have a question for you about your cat, which has been very quiet now that we turned the recording on. But I did note that you are big into rescuing animals and foster animals and things like that. And I want to ask you if there is any musical connection to that. Do you find like a mindset of rescuing animals and things like that? By the way, we have a dog that is a rescue too here in the house, Ziggy. She's 6, so all for that. But you know, I'm just curious if they're inspiration for you for composing, songwriting, for playing. What facet do they play in your life, and if it connects over to the musical side?
Yeah, something I actually don't think I've ever thought about. So that's a damn good question, David.
Thank you.
I think my connection to animals, I would say I have a passion for, I'm going to put my energy somewhere other than art. It is, how can I serve the most vulnerable of us? And I would say that the measure of our humanity is definitely in what we do for the smallest, what we deem to be the smallest and most insignificant creature. I also feel like so much of the problem that we have with rescue is overpopulation of domesticated animals. And that is a human creation. That is, people did that. And that's not something that is, whether it's my individual fault or not, a human race has done that. And so if I can put my energy there, I can't, you know, and I live on 10 acres, so I'm not gonna lie, I even saved a chipmunk the other day. I revived like with some honey water a struggling female wasp, because I love my pollinators, my property. Yeah. I don't know. I never really thought about the connection between artist and kind of, you know, animal rescuer. Mm-hmm. I will say that I do feel like I do like the idea of telling very human stories through music and art and connecting us in a way, because I do think we're so much more, I think there's a way to embrace our differences with joy and acceptance and find the connections, this common thread that, you know, runs through all of us. And I believe in the power of art and music to be able to do that. And I feel like in those ways we are more similar than in a beautiful way than we are unalignable, which I think is kind of an unfortunate common pattern going on around us. Yeah. I believe that maybe the interconnection is just an empathy.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I try to connect through everything, you know, that I do. And with my sister, you know, growing up with her having a disability, I'm definitely more of a fighter when it comes to trying to be a champion for people that can't fight for themselves. Right. And animals definitely can't fight for themselves at all. Right. So I guess that's a really interesting question, Dan. That is a question I have never had before. So
got to the bottom of it. So are you available for freelance work if people want to get in touch with you?
Oh, please. Yes.
All right. Well, then how do people get in touch with you?
Best way is signing that contact form on my website, and also subscribing on my website, marybethorr.org. That's 2 R's in Orr.
And 1 R in org.
And it's pretty easy. Right. You know, there's 1 R in org, correct. But I definitely would love to keep in contact with anybody that's interested in knowing about all the performances that I have going on. And then there's a contact form. My socials, you can find me, my professional page, Mary Beth Orr, MBO Horn on Facebook. And then Instagram is at Mary B. Orr Third Horn.
At Mary B.
Yeah, I have a lot of ways to contact me.
Third Horn.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is new for me. I do actually have management. I'm on the roster for Great Lakes Performing Artists.
Nice.
So if you do a search for Great Lakes Performing Artists, or actually even on my socials and on my website, if you want book me for anything, you can get in contact with me through that form that will send you to Great Lakes Performing Artists, and they have a way of getting all that done.
All right, that sounds great. We wish you all the best for the Singing Horn and the 15 Minutes of Fame project coming up and every other thing. And I hope maybe you'll be performing for us as part of the International Symphonina Orchestra next year. We'll have to see if we can make that work.
Oh, please. I would love it. I love everything that your organization does, and I would be so ecstatic to work with you.
Thank you so much. I do really appreciate that, Mary Beth. We're going to listen to some more of your great playing and singing on the way out here. And if there's anything we can ever do to be of help to you, you just let us know.
Thank you, David.
I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I'm just going over home. I'm just